Good morning everyone and welcome back to our channel on CNC turning techniques, which today we could also call a bit of CNC turning and milling techniques, since we will be dealing with powered tools. So we've introduced these tools and today we're starting with the very basics. We're going to talk about nothing less than holes, or rather fori, never say bucci. In the workshop, or they'll grind you down. Okay, we drill with drills, and if needed we can tap with holes, and this can be done either before or after depending on the type of operation. With a center drill we go ahead and center it, whether it's a pilot hole or just centering. So powered tools, as the name suggests, mean that it's no longer the workpiece that spins, but the tool that rotates. The tool rotates while the workpiece stays still, and there's chip removal. Drills, as I mentioned, or mills to create more complex profiles. The first concept to clarify for the turner, who, whether he likes it or not, finds himself acting as a miller. Cutting speed is set by tool diameter and manufacturer advice. The cutting speed is no longer about varying the RPM. In relation to the diameter we are working with, but rather it's the RPM that we will set once and for all for the tool in question, based on its diameter. So a drill with a diameter of 6 will have an RPM, calculated based on the cutting speed that the drill manufacturer recommends for the material we are going to work with. Let's translate it and put it into practice. So the formula to keep in mind is the one for cutting speed. The cutting speed is equal to y times diameter times RPM divided by 1000. Let's work under the assumption that we need to make a hole with a 6 mm drill bit, and that with this bit the tool manufacturer recommends it for C40 or 20 chrome manganese chrome 5. When working, it tells us you need to work at 40 meters per minute. Alright, we need to set a number of revolutions so that these 40 meters per minute are maintained. So our formula becomes 40 equals 3.14 equals 3.14, which is the value of y for 6 and 3.14, which is the value of y for 6 and 6. For n divided by 1000, to obtain a variable, adjust values around the equal sign. Here, n is our variable. Move 1000 up, divide by 3.14 and 6 to get the revolutions for our milling machine, 40,000. Divided by 3.14 means our machine runs at 2123 RPM, whether at the center or a 500 diameter. RPM remains constant, unless adjusted for cutting variations. Cutting speed relates to RPM. Now on to programming. Input codes for powered tool. The 1000 goes up, and the 314 and the 6 go down, so we divide by 314 and 6, and we will get the revolutions we need to set on our milling machine. Let me grab my phone for a moment because I didn't prepare it. You know my videos are always done on the fly and not well prepared, so 40,000 divided by 3.14 means our milling machine will need to run at 2123 revolutions per minute, and it has to do this, whether it's in the center of the piece or at a diameter of 500. I said milling machine, but I meant our drill bit, and the same goes for milling cutters. Their number of revolutions will never change during processing unless the operator needs to adjust it because we're cutting more or a little less. However, the cutting speed doesn't exist, but the number of revolutions exists in relation to the cutting speed we need to achieve. Okay, that said, let's talk about the programming aspect. The codes we need to insert into a program that involves the use of powered tools. So, the machine initially knows it can be a lathe or a milling machine, but it doesn't know what you intend to do. So, if you create your nice turning program and then start using powered tools, you need to activate those powered tools. Therefore, every CNC machine has a code for activation and deactivation. That said, let's mention a couple of things about the program you need to create. the codes for the programs that we have to insert into a program. That involves the use of powered tools. So, the machine initially knows it can be a lathe or a milling machine, but it doesn't know what you intend to do. Therefore, if you create your nice turning program and then start using powered tools, you need to activate those powered tools. So, every CNC machine has a code for activation and deactivation of powered tools, machinery and equipment. Fanuc models require understanding M35 and M34. M35 activates tools, M34 deactivates them. After turning, zero the C-axis with G28H0 to mill. What are they? M35 activates the powered tools, while M34 deactivates them, and the machine will return to operate like a lathe. In the earlier versions of Fanuc, M35 would activate once and deactivate the next time. We'll also see why this is the case later. When we have turned a piece, the self-centering chuck will stop in a random position. If we want to start milling, we need to zero the C-axis in Fanuc. Zeroing the C-axis is done with G28H0. Okay, so you'll see your self-centering chuck make a nice turn and then stop at its zero position. From there, we start talking about the possibility of using the third axis. Who is it? Where is the third axis? The third axis is nothing more than the spindle. The spindle or self-centering chuck in this case, because we see the self-centering chuck, but it is the spindle that can move either on its own, meaning in degrees, so the C-axis, or in conjunction with the X or Z-axis to create more complex profiles, as we will see later, when we go to make holes or perform operations where the spindle needs to stay still. We also have another option, which is the self-centering chuck brake. It's just a disc brake like the ones on cars, mounted on the spindle shaft, which stiffens the spindle. So when I use a large off-center drill bit, it prevents spindle vibration and ensures that the tool lasts longer. In Fanuc, there are two options, M88 for a weak brake and M89 for a strong brake. Then there's a pressure switch, a manometer that allows you to use whatever locking pressure you want. Once you're done using them, M90 releases them. So what's the difference between M88 and M89? M88 is used when I need to drill two holes head-on or make a keyway where I don't need to rotate the self-centering chuck. In 88 and 89, the 88 is done when I need to drill two holes head-on or make a keyway where I don't need to rotate the self-centering chuck. It's the spindle while using the M88 milling cutter. If I need to use a profile, but be careful, the M88 often causes issues. If I don't have any problems, I prefer not to use it. So I work with a free spindle. So remember, M88 is for soft brake, M89 is for hard brake, and M90 disengages the brake. Then we have the rotation of powered tools. The rotation of powered tools always happens in G97, always giving an S, so 2000 RPM, and then M3I12. Why? Because with Fanuc specifically, this code set like this. P11 makes the main chuck turn. If I write below G97, S2000, M3P12, both the motors, and the main spindle will turn, the meaning of this possibility is given for some main processes. The creation of a toothing through a hob requires respinning both. Take it with a pinch of salt because I have to say that I have never done it in my life. The older Fanuc models instead have M3 and M4 for the self-centering M33 and M34 for the motorized ones, and it will be the M35 that activates and motorized ones. Okay, so let's do a first example for creating a threaded hole. The length of the hole is 50 millimeters, which is a standard measurement for many applications. The length of the thread is 30 millimeters, ensuring a secure fit. The diameter of the hole is 10.5 millimeter, which allows for a snug fit for the thread. The diameter of the male thread is M12, a common size in many engineering projects, and the pitch is 1.75, which determines the distance between threads. Obviously, we will have already prepared our piece, ensuring it is clean and free of debris, so we will have already worked around it, making sure all measurements are precise, and we will have the machine set to G95, which is crucial for the correct operation of the machine. We just need to do. The hole will be made with a diameter of 60. So what should we do? We've written our entire program for tapping, for turning, to do what we need to do. We need to tell the machine to activate the powered tools. Call our tool T-Horn 10. Let's call it a tool. Make the powered tool rotate. So G97, S2000, M3, Z10, C0. You'll see the self-centering chuck doing this, and the machine moving towards the piece. Then it's just a G1, Z minus 50F, 0.15. There you go. You can also decide whether to work not just as turners, but as millers and set, for example, an F100 G94, so working in millimeters per minute. It's a bit about your habits. It doesn't change much. Personally, I prefer to always work as a turner. After that, in G0, we go to Z200. Now, we change the tool to T1111 M12. Since we're going to thread, it's a good idea to stop the spindle for a moment with M5 P12. So M5 should be activated. We start thinking about tapping. Rigid tapping. How do we do rigid tapping? Just like I taught you to do it on the lathe. So M29 S300. First, we need to position ourselves. So G0. Always repeat it, even if you know you're already there. X60, Z10, C0. Then go check your notes if you don't remember, but otherwise, M29, S300. Now, at this point, we change the tool to the T11, 11, M12 configuration. Since we are going to perform threading, it is indeed a good idea to stop the spindle momentarily with the command M5 P12. Therefore, the M5 command needs to be activated. We then start considering the process of tapping, specifically rigid tapping. How exactly do we perform rigid tapping? Just like I previously taught you to execute it on the lathe. So the command is M29 S300. First and foremost, we need to position ourselves correctly. So the command is G0. Always repeat it, even if you are aware that you are already there. X60 Z10 C0. Then, go and check your notes if you do not remember. But otherwise, the command is M29 S300. We set the turns of our male, then G84. That was the macro for the tap. If you want, repeat G95 and M34, and you finished your operation. If you want to do it the same, but shifted by 60 degrees, there's a hole here. and a hole there. And by opening it at 30 degrees, instead of putting M34, right, then you can do all the holes first, then all the taps, C30, and redo everything exactly as discussed. You understand that it's just like working with one more axis. It's nothing special. Here's a little tip I want to give you that goes beyond the programming aspect. If you have a lathe, with powered tools, when you're drilling in the center, even if you can do it from the lathe, do it from the powered tool. Don't do it with the centers, because then you might have some issues. You can drill with the powered tool, because in an ideal world, our tools, when at X0, are perfectly aligned with the self-centering chuck. But the world isn't ideal. Often in workshops, you find machines that are 20, 30 or 40 years old, with very poor maintenance, or simply machines that are at the end of their life. So, the alignment doesn't go from X plus to X minus because that would be easy to compensate for, but from the operator to the lathe guides, it's not perfect. If you rotate the tool, that's not a problem. It can drill even if it's misaligned by 1/10.5, but if you rotate the piece, especially with very small drills, you risk having abnormal wear and breakage. So it's better to drill a misaligned hole by 1/10 or 2 less. The less, the better. Of course, you also need to look at the dimensions in the drawing, and then possibly go back and touch up the center with a small tool or a center drill when you measure between the points. But you'll have much less wear on the drill bits and taps. You will encounter much less breakdowns. Obviously, the machine in ideal conditions is the best advice I can give you. However, if you are working on a 92 Angelini, it'll be tough to have a machine that's in really good shape. Today we've taken the first steps with powered tools. We've only made some holes, and aside from a few minor details and the discussion about cutting speed, which becomes a constant RPM calculation, you can see that it's nothing groundbreaking or difficult. I hope, as always, that I've conveyed what little I know in the best way possible. The more experienced among you surely have their own cycles for making lots of holes and can give me advice that I'll accept and we can discuss in future videos. And if you like the video, as always, give me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But I'm sure many of you are already subscribed because I see that a lot of you are following me. Now I'll figure out what to do next. We'll get to contouring, some keyway notches, hexagons, and more, because I know you all want to profile a nice hexagon, not just with a candle cutter. We'll definitely do that. Thank you for being with me, and see you next time. Bye-bye.